Today, I want to talk about spiritual discernment. So, I've been on a spiritual journey for getting closer to 2 years now, and I've had a lot of ups and downs and a lot of change throughout that time. So, in this video, I'll be talking about things that I could probably will do separate videos on each thing, and I won't necessarily be going in order, but I've just been thinking about spiritual discernment a lot. And first of all, I think about how really talking spiritually to any ancestors, passed on loved ones, any angels, talking to your own higher self, Mother Gaia, your lower self. It's a form of telepathy, and you can also communicate with plants or animals or really anything. You can communicate with the elements, with air. You can communicate with different parts of your body specifically. You can communicate with inanimate objects as well, because everything is energy and everything has consciousness. So one big thing is clearing out your mind, because if you don't clear out your mind, or you have like expectations of what or who you're talking to, what they might say, then that can cloud your judgment, or like cloud the channel basically of what you hear. And then also, if you already have a lot of intrusive thoughts or just old thought patterns that you haven't really dissected yourself, it can be harder to differentiate from, am I hearing this from another being, or is this some old thought patterns that I've harbored in my own body for a long time? The other thing to think about is trusting yourself. So I grew up not trusting myself at all because I was always in fight or flight. And I also have DID, and all my different alters had various, often conflicting thought patterns. And I thought all of it was me instead of simply something I was experiencing. And then I also just had a history of not being able to trust myself to take care of myself, or even at times in my life to not make kind choices towards others or towards myself. And so I had a hard time, especially because in my specific trauma I went through, um, I was manipulated purposely in a way to believe that I was lying. And so it's already hard enough for me, it had in the past been, to trust what I say in a conversation where I can hear myself and I can hear the other person, and to trust what they're saying to me, to remember it. And so it was very difficult for me at first, hearing things now telepathically. First of all, I was terrified of that before, and or just didn't believe it existed. So it took a while of me saying, I trust myself enough to receive truly what I'm hearing without second guessing it. Again, a lot of it came from loving and accepting my own intrusive thoughts so I could see and hear them and let them pass through me, and then also identify what thoughts are mine versus what information I'm getting from other people. But what I used to do a lot was I used to basically, when I was talking to any other entity, I would ask them, is that really what you said? And then my doubt started talking to me. So then I would hear their messages in slightly or even drastically different ways. Also, I have found that it's not simply enough to clear your mind, but for me at some points it's been necessarily to be regulated as well, or at least like in homeostasis to some degree, unless I'm talking to my own higher self, middle self, or lower self, Mother Gaia. But when I'm talking to other entities in particular, or like even to my cats, I found that it's very helpful if I'm in homeostasis. So I've taken care of all my basic needs. I've had water, I'm an okay temperature, I'm clean, I've eaten, but or even if there's something really stressful I'm not looking forward to doing, sometimes it's not so helpful to try to communicate with others before doing that. If I'm just thinking about that other thing. So like my level of stress has really affected my ability to discern what information is coming in towards me. So yeah, I found it really helpful to build that trust with myself. First, just building trust with myself in taking care of myself, in taking care of my environment. And then instead of second guessing what I'm hearing, I just take it at face value. And I've been doing that just with people in general too, just taking whatever people say, whatever any spiritual being says to me at face value without doubting myself. And then if I come back to it and maybe I'm more regulated or my head is more clear and I hear a different message, I'll inquire about why that was to kind of get to the bottom of it. But in the moment, I don't doubt what I'm hearing anymore because that hasn't been conducive for me to hear the channels clearer. Another misconception I had when I first started communicating this way with my spirit team and with ancestors, and also I communicate with people's like higher selves. I had this misconception that I would always be told the truth, which was upsetting for me at first, again, because I mentioned I had trauma, specifically with someone purposefully convincing me I'm lying and convincing me I misheard them saying certain things. So that was hard for me at first to kind of confront my own trauma and own intrusive thoughts about that. But I've realized, and I haven't really, I tried Googling this, like if spirit guides often lie to you. I found one person like on Reddit saying they had been, but I haven't heard really people talking about this before, and would be very glad to get more information about this and other people's experiences with their spirit teams lying to them. My spirit team has often been lying to me on purpose, but sometimes on accident as well, as in like they think they're telling the truth because that's the best information they have, but it actually wasn't truthful. And that's another thing to mention too, that like your spirit guides, like any entity you can connect with, it's important that they're kind to you. It's important because like I don't quite have a word I want to use for it, but sometimes even if you're talking to someone's higher self or an entity, that doesn't necessarily mean they're kind just because they don't have a physical body. They also might not know like more information than you know, so they might not have more wisdom than you know, which isn't to say you ought not to communicate with them then. And what I found most important when communicating and choosing which spirit guides I want to talk to is if they understand you. Like, I think kindness is the most important. But if they don't understand you, you can kind of have a more surface level conversation, but I would caution using their insight as guidance if they don't understand what you're going through. So even with my own like ancestors and passed on loved ones, what I'm trying to do now isn't something that they've done in the past, like where I'm trying to go and where I see myself going and the type of environment I'm trying to create. So their guidance for me sometimes hasn't been helpful because they're only guiding to me in their best of their abilities with what they can see. But I'm making different choices, and when I talk to them about that, they end up usually being really proud of me, oftentimes very shocked because they didn't really foresee that as like something they would have chosen or advocated for. And so it's really important not to just do whatever your spirit team is telling you because they only have so much information. Even if they understand you, even if they're extremely kind, even if they have wisdom in different areas, your own wisdom is paramount. And you have your own free will too to make different decisions no one's ever made before to create a completely different life and trajectory for your life. So now I want to share about some of the lying. So again, some of the lying was more in the terms of they didn't realize what they were saying wasn't helpful because they genuinely thought it was helpful, but you realized in yourself it actually wasn't helpful, right? So I don't even know if I would consider that lying. But anyways, my spirit team has intentionally lied to me before, and I didn't realize this until this big thing happened in December 2025, so a couple months ago now. But I realized leading up to that, like in retrospect now, they were giving me tiny lies before that, and they continued to give me tiny lies past that. So the reason specifically for these tiny lies is for me to rely on myself, because it was so incredible being able to have different spirit guides and angels constantly help me. I've never allowed anyone to help me that much in my life. I used to be hyper independent, and it almost felt like a blow to my ego to be helped, or like I felt like someone was putting me down or calling me incapable. And so I was letting my spirit team, which I'm very happy I did because I feel so much more like open in my heart space to receiving help and to receiving love. And I was letting them help me with everything, every little thought pattern, every little decision, whether to pick this thing up first or that thing up, what order to do things in. And it was really intense. And specifically, I do a whole video about over the summer with Mother Gaia, which is your lower self. And she helped me, because one of the informations I'd been told before, which was from the moon, was to go slow and be at peace. And that's helpful sometimes, but it was super unhelpful when I was too fucking hot and my AC didn't work and I was hungry and I had a lot more responsibilities than I usually had. And I was trying to do everything really slowly, really ritualize everything, meditate before drinking my water, always have hot water. And so I let Mother Gaia take over because I was just falling apart, like doing what I usually had done for the last, at least, I don't know, almost a year at that point, like spiritually. And she was just telling me, do everything as fast as possible. Just drink cold water. Just chug the water. Just watch videos when you eat and drink things. Don't meditate. Don't do your yoga. Don't say any prayers. Just get it done and feel better. And so that was really confusing because I thought the like go slow and be at peace was vital to like every second of my life. So I wasn't really using discernment. I didn't really understand the discernment, right? So I do want to do a whole video on just that period of time with Mother Gaia because it was really beautiful and I learned to trust her a lot. And that's the thing too, at least for me, I like just trying things out. I don't really feel scared anymore of people letting me down or hurting me. I mean, it's something to grieve, but I'd rather try things out and give people or entities a chance and then see if it works for me or not. So yeah, oh yes, with them lying to me. So they started lying to me and telling me to do things in certain orders. Like, for example, like I had gone through a really stressful time with showering in particular, and I was trying to shower as smoothly, as quickly, as peacefully as possible, and then get regulated. So I was asking my spirit team to help me, and they were saying I had two knobs, one for hot, one for cold. They're saying turn this one this amount, this one this amount. It's the perfect amount. We're telling you the amount to turn it, so that's one less decision you have to make to like remove decision fatigue, basically, which was something that they've helped me with a lot. This like choice fatigue, which is really common with autism as well, which I have, and so they're telling me that, and the water was either too hot or too cold. And I'm like, what the heck, guys? Like, you told me this was going to work. This worked before. Why are you telling me things? And I'm just frustrated. I don't even want to listen to you right now because it's not helpful. And I was mad too because I was in a stressful situation with like these past thoughts and stuff. And so that started happening pretty consistently where they would tell me something that used to work, used to make my life smoother and more peaceful, and it started making my life more chaotic. So I couldn't rely on them anymore, which was the point. They didn't want me to rely on them anymore. They wanted me to see they can be helpful, but to live my life for myself. So that's been really interesting. And then I'll go more into kind of where it is now. So in December, though, they told me a really big lie, and this was really distressing. I was really mad, and at some point in time, it'll be a whole story. So something happened in October of 2025 where I was told this thing was going to happen, basically, and I never been told with such certainty that something was going to happen in my life. I didn't even believe it. I went through a whole journey where like I had a migraine for a couple weeks because I didn't believe it. So I just like had to believe it after that because my body literally wouldn't let me not believe it. And it was really incredible. It was an incredible experience. I'm really excited to talk about it in full at some point. It was so monumental. Something really big and helpful happened in November where these entities I was connecting with that I hadn't connected with before really helped me in even more fine nuance and detail than even Mother Gaia did during those summer months. Um, in basically this certain type of regulation and certain type of energy work that I was doing to alleviate social anxiety. So I want to do a whole video on that as well. It was really intense. I've never in my life, even with any other spirit guide or any other entity, been helped to that extent. So I was feeling really anxious about this, basically this thing coming into my 3D reality. And I was feeling so stressed about it that one thing I realized that your spirit team often lies to you about is timing of things to create more patience within you. Um, and so that's what I realized, and to my discernment, just kind of tune out any type of timing I hear on channeled messages. Like if I'm watching other people's videos, I just take it with a grain of salt and I let it flow through me and realize I'm just building more patience. And I felt this patience for everything I knew was coming in, but it was like this new thing that was coming in that I didn't ask for, that I had been told was coming in, and I was told a very large time frame. But it was feeling unbearable because for a lot of reasons. It just felt very different than any manifestation. And basically, they told me it was coming in at a time, like after the fact, like after, not at the beginning with this large time frame, but later on in December, they told me it was coming in at a specific time. And I'm like, good, because I felt so distressed over it, basically. Like this dissonance about knowing where I'm going, but not being there was so incredibly painful. I, several times just throughout this whole like 3-month process, I wished I never even knew this information because it was that painful not to be where I know I'm going. And it never felt like that with anything else I'm calling into my life. So I was just really mad. So I could only imagine it relieving itself by the thing itself coming in. So in December, basically, they lied to me about when it was coming in. And what I told myself is that I would take space from everyone on my spirit team, including my own higher self, if that happened. It happened. The thing did not come in when they said it would come in. And like my gut knew it. Like I knew that it wasn't really gonna come in at that time. And for the first time in, like a year, the year and a half since I started this spiritual journey, specifically more like a year and a few months since I started regularly communicating with different spiritual entities, I stopped. I took a break. For a whole like 24 hours, I didn't talk to anyone, including my higher self. And I was heartbroken. I was devastated. I was so mad. I was so incredibly fucking angry at everyone and everything. I even stopped talking to my cats like telepathically for that day because they told me it was coming in too. Everyone told me and everyone purposely lied. Like everyone knew it wasn't coming in. All my spirit team, my higher self, my ancestors, the entities I was speaking with in particular, my cats, they all knew it wasn't coming in. So unlike just not having the wisdom, like I spoke of before, or like those smaller things like telling me orders to do things or to turn on or off the faucet to a degree, This was a big thing, and every single spiritual entity I talked to told me the same thing, and they purposely lied to me. And this was so incredibly frustrating, again, because I had that trauma of being lied to and being believed that I'm a liar. So now I had this huge instance of thinking, like, can I not actually, like, is my spiritual abilities actually not to this degree where I can hear what's going on? Like, am I actually not comprehending what's going on? Because that would be terrifying. So I'll go into probably a whole nother video on like what exactly happened. It was a lot, but it gave me pause where, in retrospect, again, you know, it's been like 2 months since that happened. This really helped me take distance from my spiritual team. Because I did take a bit of distance in the summer, because up until then, I'd been really heavy into my spirituality. I felt like a loss of identity. Over the summer, I poured into all like rediscovering and discovering new interests, hobbies, things that make me feel like me instead of make me feel like one. But I wasn't really doing anything spiritually. So then during the fall, 2025, I more was doing both, but to really high extremes. I was really pouring into my spirituality and really pouring into my identity and who I was. But in doing so, I was constantly double checking with every spiritual entity I could every second of the day. And it was just this whole process because I'm like, well, I can, and it's been helpful. And now I'm just doing things to the highest extent. And I also just wasn't like having any really moments of like peace or quiet. Like I was constantly consuming media as well, which I love to do. It's just I felt like I needed to do everything into the extreme instead of allowing myself to discern what my body was craving at that moment, whether that be loud music or quiet or frequency music, talking to my spirit team, not talking to them. I wasn't really using any discernment. I was just doing all of it to the maximum because I could. So I think it was really important for me to, because like if I would have been told by anyone to take a break from anything like the spirituality, I would have been angry and resistant. And they knew that. They knew that, like, especially me, like as an Aries, I'm just very strong-headed and I don't like to be told what to do. So it's already been so much for me to allow them to help me. But if they're telling me something I don't really want to do, which was to stop communicating with them, I think I would have been pretty resistant. So instead, by collectively lying to me, it forced me to take space from them, because that's something I've been consistently doing for years now, is anytime I'm upset with anyone, including aspects of myself, I take space. Always. And then I always come back and I talk with whomever kindly, including myself. So after that, I decided that I wanted to stop, because like, also when at any time when I was like transitioning, I would talk to different spiritual entities and talk to them about things. And so I decided after this that I only really wanted to talk to my higher self, because I'm like, well, I can't really not be with myself. I can choose to not talk to my ancestors, these entities, my spirit team. I can talk to my cats just about their daily lives instead of spiritual things. But I can't really, I can choose not to talk to my highest self, but I can't get away from my highest self. So every day since then, I was just talking to my highest self, and more rarely, like maybe once a day, very briefly, checking in with these other spiritual entities I had been, and just rebuilding these relationships slowly. And so what happened, this has only been for maybe a month now or a few weeks, I realized that everything I was doing, I was still checking in with everything I was doing, every thought I had, every moment of the day, every way that I moved, everything that I grabbed, everything. I was checking in with my highest self constantly. With every single thing, it was a constant back and forth conversation. And I realized that was kind of showing me, like, yes, I can do that, but it was almost like reinforcing that, like, I didn't trust myself. And I just also didn't feel as present because, like, I was constantly trying to pull myself back into the present. Has just been a huge goal for me to be present because I had never experienced being present until my spiritual awakening in 2024, just due to my trauma and dissociation. And I thought I would never experience that in my life, being present. And so it was like a huge goal. I almost had like a fear of losing being present. And so I went through this transition maybe 3 weeks ago. I'm no longer constantly talking to my higher self. I also realized, so like your higher and lower self, so Mother Gaia, and then your own higher self related specifically to your soul, but also to your body. Like when your soul has been in other bodies, you have a different higher self. Those are like two entities. But then you also have your middle self, which is more you. And that middle self also has like a lower and higher self. I'm not sure how I want to describe because your higher self has two with like a lack mindset and abundant mindset. So does your middle self, and so does your lower self. And I'm not quite sure how to describe that right now. But so then what I did, also influenced by the Flower of Life book, the author was talking about how he saw the green angel and the purple angel, his lower and higher self, Mother Gaia being the lower self. And then he transitioned into, I think it was a gold angel for him, and that represented like more his middle self, is kind of how I took it. Or there's like a clear angel after that too. I'm not sure. I'll read it again at some point. But then that was kind of like at a higher place, not higher, but like a more advanced place, because it's more like melding them together, like a connection of the body and the soul. And so then I was having like my lower middle self and my higher middle self have a constant conversation instead of talking to my higher self or Mother Gaia like hardly ever. But then I was realizing I was still just double checking everything I was doing constantly. And so I went a week with I'm like, I'm just going to give myself a week, and I'm not going to talk to like constantly, right? I'm just going to do things. I'm just going to do things, and I'm not going to check in with myself, with any versions of myself. My lower self, my higher self, my middle self, no one. I'm going to check in with no one, like constantly. Like I was still like maybe a couple times a day if I felt like it, you know, asking questions or just chatting. But it wasn't a constant thing. And I felt incredible. I felt so liberated. I felt so present. And that's what I'm doing now. And I didn't stop after a week. I'm like, this honestly is how I want to be living now. I don't want to be in constant communication with spiritual beings or entities. I still like to practice it somewhat to some extent most days. But it's not something that I'm doing constantly. And I feel so alive and free and liberated. I think it was so important for me to see I have that ability that we can communicate with these parts of ourselves, with other entities and beings. And even I had the ability to communicate with anyone's higher self as well, even if I don't know them. And if I don't know them, they'll usually just tell me that. They'll be like, I don't know you, like on a spiritual level, even like I have nothing to say to you. And that happens often if I try to talk to inanimate objects. They're like, we're just vibing and chilling, like we don't we don't have much to say to you. It's just very interesting that like I just didn't know you're able to communicate with anything. Um Anyways, so now I usually just communicate with people's higher selves who are in my actual life, but I found that not to be that helpful that often either, because usually they just say, usually it's like an anxious thought I'm having, and they're just like, just talk to me in person about this, like, you know. And so again, it's like having the ability to do something versus, is this helpful and healthy for me? So basically my discernment has built up so much in being shown that these spiritual entities and beings will help me, and being able to choose which beings I want to listen to based on, are they kind to me? Do they give me space when I'm upset? Do they have wisdom that's helpful for me? And do they understand me? Being able to use discernment and knowing no being, I mean, even your higher self, technically, because your higher self knows what's going to happen throughout your time, even your higher self again, can purposely lie to you. So I don't think your higher self could accidentally give you misinformation like any other entity could, but I'm pretty sure, yeah, I mean, but your higher self can give you misinformation on purpose or just not want to divulge the information to you because it wouldn't be helpful to you. So that's what I've really found, is that being able to build discernment, understanding, not taking anything at face value, not blindly following any spiritual entity, knowing that you have more knowledge and information in your soul, in your being, for your own path than anyone else ever could have. And even then, your higher self, knowing what all the possibilities of what could happen in your life, they're not going to tell you anything that's harmful for you. And they might lie to you if it's helpful to you, right? So I found this all really interesting. It's really helped. It's been such a grieving process. I mean, it's been fucking awful at times, like where I felt really betrayed. I felt really sad. I felt extremely triggered. And also just kind of disappointed. I mean, I understand in retrospect, but I felt disappointed. I'm like, almost like I thought it was going to be easier than this if I could just know what to do. But that's not really the point or purpose of having free will. It's more to create what you want to do instead of simply, oh, these beings are going to tell me what to do and I'm just going to follow it blindly. So that's liberating in the fact. I mean, it used to be very stressful for me having so much choice, especially as an autistic person. I wanted more control and just a tight schedule and things not to be flexible, really to also get rid of that like decision fatigue I mentioned. But now I just transitioned into seeing it, like changing my perspective into more freedom and flexibility and limitlessness. And that doesn't mean I have to therefore do anything and everything I could. I can simply rewatch the same video for a week straight if that's what I want to do. And that can be wonderful and beautiful too. So learning how to not feel intimidated by the unlimited potential of what you could do, and instead building that trust within yourself, finding your own discernment, and in particular about timing, really letting go of time in terms of when things will happen. And I found that, yeah, I mean, that was just the biggest thing for me, was the biggest lie was a lie about timing, which again was really tough. But I feel so liberated now. You know, at that time, for like a solid month, I couldn't even attempt to think of what was the purpose of this. And that's another thing too, thinking about, you have the ability to make everything magical in your life in terms of, you know, if this was a dream, what would it mean? What is the purpose of this? What is the overall picture? And that can be beautiful to have that skill, but to do that constantly is kind of like constantly analyzing your life instead of just living it and being present in your life. So I've again found discernment in when not doing that constantly, but coming out, like coming back to that, like if I'm journaling or like meditating or having a specific conversation with my higher self. But I try not to anymore immediately think, you know, something inconvenient happened and immediately think, oh, that was for my highest good. I more know that in the back of my head. That's just my constant state now of like everything's happening for me and my highest good. But it became really exhausting to constantly check my thoughts and check myself and try to, in the moment, rewrite them. Instead, I just let them pass. I know that they're not going to grip me. I just let my thoughts clearly pass, and it's fine. So I feel really happy with where I'm at in this journey, and I'm excited to share new insights as they arrive. So anyone on a spiritual journey, and particularly at the beginning of one, I think it's really important to grow this discernment, to trust the process that, as I've described, I've been in starkly different processes, like parts of this journey where they look completely different even month to month. So to not ever try to aim for like perfection or like I'm going to do it the right way, but allow your body and mind and soul to transition and to flow through it, and to recognize what I'm, for me, what I'm doing right now, I might not be doing this in a month. This might not be helpful in a month. I might have more insights. I might go back and say, actually, I want these specific aspects of what I used to be doing that haven't been helpful for me right now. So, not limiting yourself, not going for this exponential growth, and just really letting go of taking things for exactly what they are, so you're more in control of your life and you're the ones making decisions. I think overall, your spirit team and talking with anyone telepathically can be very useful and helpful. And with any other skill, with any other activity that you could be doing, do it in a way that feels good for you. Allow yourself to make mistakes, if you'd like to call it that, and allow yourself to grow over time. Really, lastly, I found myself specifically at the beginning of my journey really putting my spiritual guides and teams and even my own higher self like on a pedestal. Almost in this very like awestruck way, but knowing that you are the main character of your life. You have sovereignty and power and control over what you're doing, and you're not in servitude of anyone else. It's more like taking their counsel and you make the decision, and you don't have to make the decision in that moment. It's more just something to consider, to critically think about, and allowing yourself to move through these decisions and move through these waves as it's so fit for you in that time. And you might not know if it's fit for you or not. So that's what's can be heartbreaking and beautiful about just trying things out and seeing how it feels. I'm excited to make specific videos, specifically about my time with Mother Guy in the summer, and with that happening that started in October and kind of ended in December, as well as just other spiritual videos and videos about my life. So I hope you enjoyed, and if you have any insight specifically about spirit guides lying, and if they've lied to you, and if you know the reason why, that would be very interesting to me. I really want to hear about other people's stories, and I wish you the best of feelings and luck and prosperity on your journey.